The battling here is a lot more respectful. If there's any contact, both parties usually go and apologize to each other not to have any conflict in the future. It's so different from Europe. So if there's like international series coming to Japan to race, such as GT World Challenge, you can tell the manners is very, very different.
Oh, wow.
There's such a big cultural and language barrier that I feel like it's still pretty primarily Japanese.
Hey there, and thank you for tuning in. We're excited to bring you another great conversation today. If you like the show and want to support us, please hit the subscribe button so we can keep bringing you great content week after week. And if you're feeling extra generous, give this video a like and share your thoughts and comments down below. Thank you so much. And now, let's get into it. Welcome to Unpacking Japan. I'm Toby, and today we welcome Hana Burton in the studio. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me.
You're a racing driver for Big Boss Wear Team Toms. You've been racing for a few years now here in Japan, primarily in the Kyojo Cup, which is an all-women's racing league, which is super interesting in itself. I think there's very few out there in the world. We're going to talk about your journey here and into racing, which I think is quite recent. You're from California.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about what brought you to Japan?
So I actually started off enjoying cars pretty late in life when I turned about 20 or 21. I was working for a Japanese company actually called HKS, if you know.
Car related, yeah.
A tuning company. And that's actually what got me into cars, which is kind of a little bit backwards for most people. But basically through that, I just started loving Japanese cars. And then when we had extra time on the circuit doing R&D for parts, I would be able to take the demo cars out and drive, which got me into driving. And then I wanted to race, but it was a little bit difficult in the US, so I came to Japan to start that.
You had no particular prior interest in cars, but you ended up at the car tuning company.
Yeah.
Was this like by pure chance or?
I was in Arizona at the time, and I think my mom was working for another company that I think had affiliations with HKS, their building.
Mm-hmm.
And she introduced me to HKS USA, which didn't have very many people at the time. And they wanted someone who understood Japanese and also marketing or social media management. So yeah, that's what got me in.
That's what got you in, and then getting to test drive their cars when they were free got you into driving. But then you're like, not so many opportunities in the US. Why is that?
So the US is a lot more expensive. And then there's a kind of a different route to get your racing license. You have to go through a pretty expensive schooling, or you have to go through like NASA or SCCA, if you're familiar with that. It's kind of a club series that you have to do a few races, and you either rent a car or own your car. And it's really expensive.
Wow. So is it like for safety reasons, or just the maintenance of the whole kind of racing scene is expensive, and therefore if you want to participate, the cost of entry is high?
I think the labor is a lot more there. And then the distance that you have to tow the car is also quite expensive. And then also shukuhaku.
Like
hotel accommodation fee is quite expensive as well. So just everything just becomes a lot more expensive over there.
You mentioned that HKS was looking for someone that spoke Japanese. So you spoke Japanese at the time already. Were you already considering Japan as a place to move and looking into opportunities there? Or was it something that just came after you wanted to race?
I actually couldn't really speak Japanese, but I could understand it. So because the manager couldn't really speak English at the time, but he could kind of understand it. It worked kind of like they would speak Japanese, I would understand it, and then speak back English and they would understand it. But yeah, I wasn't really looking into Japan as some place to move, I guess, mostly because I felt like I also couldn't speak Japanese. And it was just somewhere I went to visit my grandparents in the summer most years. That's how I really saw Japan.
So what did you see in Japan as an opportunity for you as a race car driver? When you started looking at the scene here, what made you feel like, oh, maybe coming to Japan might give me the opportunity to race a little more?
I think there are a lot of things. One, because I was working in the Japanese tuning market, a lot of my contacts were Japanese. And then 2, I had a friend who raced in Asia, Europe, and America. And they said, yeah, Japan seems like probably the best place for you because a lot of people who race in Japan start a lot later than the rest of the world. For example, Europe, doing Formula 4 at the age of 18 is kind of really, really late. Whereas in Japan, a lot of people can't get their driving license until they're 18. So they can't even start racing cars until they're 18 or Formula cars.
It reminds me, I think in Formula 1, Max Verstappen has like these videos of him like racing karts when he's like super, super young. And is that kind of how most people start in Europe?
That's normal in Japan too. Most people start 3 or 4 years old in go-karts, which is kind of like everybody else I'm competing with has started at that age.
So you kind of saw a market that has potential. People were recommending this to you, but you're not a race car driver at that time. You were test driving the cars for HKS. What do you need to actually become a professional racing driver?
I wouldn't consider myself a professional right now because I feel like you have to be a paid factory driver, maybe doing Super GT to be professional. So I guess what people consider professional is different, but I myself wouldn't consider myself a professional. But I was driving the tuning cars for about 4 years before I came to Japan. And I actually wanted to get really good at it. So I hired a coach and learned how to read data and telemetry, and also was practicing on the sim as well. So I was really trying to get my skill level up so I could at least be competent before I started doing the wheel-to-wheel racing. What was the question?
What is required to become like a professional?
Oh, professional. So what I would consider a professional? It's kind of different all around the world. In Japan, I would consider maybe the level of Super Formula Lights or F3 level and up, maybe semi-professional. And then in Japan, to be a factory driver, you have to enter a factory school. So there's 2 right now between Toyota and Honda. I believe you can enter around 13 or 14 years old, and you got to pass driving tests and then go through a schooling to be picked up by the factory and kind of grown as a driver. That would be kind of like pushed through.
So then you'd be like a professional driver for this company and kind of represent them and everything.
Yeah.
You said for you, when you were driving the test cars, you hired a coach and you learned to read telemetry and so on. What are some of these fundamentals that you kind of have to learn when you're interested in kind of racing on track that you don't even consider when you just drive a car on the road?
So there are like optimal areas, like optimal lines to drive where you can be the fastest for a 1-lap situation. And then there's techniques for braking, for example. I don't know if it's too detailed, but
I'm super interested.
You want to slow the car down in the shortest amount of time possible. So when you're braking in a straight line, you brake like from the initial to peak pressure. And then in order to control the weight transfer of the car, you release the brake like slowly as you turn in. But in a road car, usually in order not to upset the pitch of the car, you're braking like soft to hard
so you
pressure.
Slowly kind of drive into the curve and then release and you kind of get out. But you do this differently now.
Yeah, it's kind of opposite. So for example, if this is like the pressure, in a race car, you go like...
So like all at once.
Yeah. And then in a road car, you're like...
I see. So it's kind of like a completely different habits that you need to pick up and like thinking of when you approach the circuit. How complex is it? You mentioned telemetry. So is there like a lot of data that you kind of are taking in when you're driving on track?
Yeah. So I guess the main would be your brake data, your throttle data, your GPS speed, and then your steering and RPM, I guess. That's kind of like the main basic data that you look at when you first start. It kind of tells you what you're doing differently versus something else that's faster. Yeah.
What was so interesting for you in that when you kind of started getting into it? Why did you feel like, oh, I want to hire a coach. I want to do more of this. I want to learn all of these things. What interested you?
I didn't realize it was as technical as it was. I think most people who don't race don't realize it is that way. I just kind of like drove with what I felt like was fast, but there's like more theory to it than that. So I think that's kind of what interested me.
So you kind of enjoy driving fast, and then you realize someone told you, well, actually, if you change all of these things, you can go twice as fast on the track. Oh, cool.
Yeah, I think also when I first started, because I'm kind of someone who goes with like ikioi, like how do you say that?
Just kind of how you feel.
Yeah. So I was always driving kind of over the limit of grip, so it feels really fast, but it's not actually very fast.
Oh.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy. So
kind of pushing the car to the limit where you might lose control, which gives you that feeling of adrenaline, and you're like, oh, you're going super fast.
Yeah.
But actually, it's dangerous, and you can be faster if you manage your braking better.
Yeah.
Interesting. So you have this dream then. Okay, you want to come to Japan. You want to race more. What was your plan for coming here and for kind of getting into a team, or for kind of trying to participate in races?
At that time, I was already creating a lot of car content. So I thought maybe I could leverage socials because it seemed that way in the US. I also had some friends that would race professionally in the US. And it looked like they were kind of leveraging their social medias to get to attract sponsors in order to race. So I thought that was kind of the route. Now that I'm racing here in Japan, I don't feel like that is a very common thing, which I can touch on later, but I basically contacted a friend. I invited a friend karting. Her name is Arisa Mizuhara, and she did a lot of drifting and rally here. And she had a contact with Toyota Gazoo Racing in Japan, who contacted Goodyear for me. And they were running a series called Yaris Cup, which was very, very entry level. And I thought it would be the best place to kind of start off.
So do I
career.
imagine this driving with a Toyota Yaris then?
Yeah, I was a Toyota Yaris.
And so you, through these contacts, get into this, and you have your first experience racing. How was that?
So first, they asked me to come to Japan, and it was when the borders were still closed because of COVID. So it was right at the end of that. But it was like, oh, can you come next week and like come to Hokkaido to watch this race, to meet these people? Not even to race, because I didn't have my license yet, race license. But yeah, so I was just like, okay, I'm going to do it. This is my chance. So I booked the flight, and then I went over to check it out, and I met with Goodyear. And then they were like, okay, we have like the car open for the last race of the year in November. If you want to try, like you have to get your race license and all of this thing. So from there, I just started working to get the license and some test days in before.
What's that license? What do you need to pass this? And what does it allow you to do after?
So in the States, the race license, like I was talking about before, you do the entry-level series, NASA or SCCA, and complete maybe 5 or 6 races before you can get the license. Or you can do a paid school like Skip Barber, like a 3-day school where you have to pay a lot to get the license. But in Japan, it was actually just a written test, I believe, and then kind of a driving test where you didn't really need to drive that fast, but just be careful and kind of understand the rules of the flags and everything. And then after that, I was able to get the race license. So it's really not that difficult in Japan.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So just a basic written test for probably your knowledge and understanding of track rules, and then just drive around the track safely.
Yeah.
And then you can race.
Yeah.
So you get that license, and you get to participate in the last race, or the last day of the Yaris Cup. It's race day. You sit in that car. It's your first race in Japan. What are you thinking at that time? Were you like, this is my chance, I shouldn't blow it? Or were you just like excited to get that opportunity and kind of...
I think I was just really excited. And during that time, like the first 2 years of racing, I was just like, I want to go fast. That's all I was thinking. So yeah, I just kind of went for it. I didn't know if it would kind of connect to anything else, but I just wanted to make the most of like this chance I never thought would happen.
But it did lead to many other things because you're still here a few years later and racing now. When came the moment where it was now a real opportunity for you to stay here full time and race on a regular basis as part of now for them the Kyoto Cup? How did that kind of come to be leading up from this first race you had a few years ago?
So I thought I would continue with the Yaris Cup because it seemed like a really great place, backed by Toyota as well. So I bought my own used Yaris Cup car, which was about 150万円, like 10,000 USD.
10,000 US dollars.
Yeah. So it's quite affordable compared to the US. I mean, it's an expensive hobby. It's not affordable, but it's
a car you can only drive on track.
Actually, no, you can drive it on the street. So I was driving it on the street because it has a number plate. It just has like a roll cage and everything in it. And then I decided to race with Saitama Toyopet, Green Brave, I think Urawa Misono, GR Garage. So I did one race with them. But during that time, there was another team another series I wanted to try out for. Because one of the drivers at the Yaris Cup series invited me to talk to the series owner. So I rented a car. It's called a Vita. It's a single seater. And I tried out with it, or not tried out, sorry. I practiced with it for the tryout. And during the practice, there was a team that was filming my onboard with a GoPro, which I didn't know at the time. And they actually sent it to another team. And that team contacted me. They're like, hey, don't go to the tryouts. Like, we want to onboard you onto my team. So yeah, that's what got me to stay.
You pitched from that car with the onboard GoPro that you didn't know was
there.
You mentioned there are different these leagues that you wanted to try out for. What exactly is the structure for motorsports in Japan? Like, how many leagues are there? What can you do? What can you not? And you have this one license that allows you to drive on track, but you also mentioned you don't consider yourself a professional. To be a professional, you'd have to be in like GT 500 or something like that. What exactly is the difference between all of these different circuits?
It's kind of a difficult question. Yeah. There's a lot of different series in Japan you can do. A lot of them are kind of more hobby, have like more of a hobby feel.
Privately owned?
I mean, within all series, some cars can be privately owned or team owned. So it's just kind of the level of drivers that join that series. Some series are more routed to make the drivers more professional, I guess, such as FIA F4 usually is a route to go to Super GT. And then also a lot of different cars you can drive. So there's more street like cars, like tuning cars, or 86 Cup, which is like a cup car, but it's still so similar to the road car, versus the Vita or Formula cars, which have like no ABS, no power steering, no brake booster.
So each series has like a different goal, so to say. Some are just for fun and people that like to race cars as an expensive hobby. Some are to kind of train future professionals to maybe be in Formula 3, Formula 2, Formula 1 or other competitions. And some are like also test grounds for like tuning cars or things like that. Was your license that you got, were you allowed to take part in all of them, or is it kind of regulated where you can race and compete?
I think the license I had at the time was, I think you can compete in anything below, I'm not really sure, but I think you just can't compete in Super GT, Super Taikyu, and obviously Super Formula.
Like the most powerful cars.
They're just the most high level series.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What did you want to compete in?
At that time, I didn't really know. I liked Super GT because it has like JDM cars, which I love. So I thought that was the route at the time until I started driving the Vita more. And on one of the first days I drove the Vita, I got to test a Formula 4 car in the pouring rain. And that's when I started really, really wanting to do Formula. But now that I've done Formula and I've kind of like rethought my career, especially with my age, I kind of went back to, maybe I want to do like Super GT 300.
Mm-hmm. What's so different with a Formula car? Because people see them, maybe the most common image is Formula One, but there's different kind of levels. There's Formula E now as well with electric powered cars. And I've seen that the drivers are kind of nearly laying down inside those cars. But what was the experience for you to kind of get into that car? You mentioned rainy day and drive them. How does one imagine it if you've never been inside?
Oh, I can go like super detailed into it, which it's kind of hard to understand, or I can just kind of like talk about it.
Go with your impression and kind of what really struck you when you first got into it.
I think like just the feeling of grip just feels really, really like direct.
Mm-hmm.
Because the suspension is really, really different from like a GT car. So when you're braking and like moving the weight of the car and turning into a corner, it's a lot less delayed. The movement is a lot less soft than a GT car. Also, just like the level of grip is really high because there's a lot of downforce. And like there's no steering assist or like brake assist or anything. So it just feels like really, really raw, I guess.
How much practice do you need to kind of get used to this faster response and higher grip on the road when you go from, I don't know, driving the Yaris on the track and then driving that kind of car? Because you need to, until you kind of know how you can actually take the curve with that car, it must take quite a bit of time.
Yeah, I think especially with a road car and then a car like that with high downforce and higher grip, the braking technique is really, really different. But I think if you learn about how to drive instead of just like using your body to learn how it feels to drive, you kind of have like markers for how to drive whatever around the circuit. Like what's the fastest way to drive whatever around the circuit, I guess.
Is this something that throughout your career here you've kind of been guided by coaches, or is this a lot of self-studying and you get the chance to drive a new car, so you'll, I don't know, pick up a quote-unquote textbook and go through it. Okay, this car can do like this. I'll keep in mind those markers, this data, and when I'm driving it, I'll have to pay attention to those.
I think in the beginning, it was a lot of people coaching me, and because I was so interested in driving, I was like always asking questions to anyone I could ask questions to. But a lot of what they say you can't understand until you experience it a lot and like really get the feeling about. That's why like I'm not really sure like how, when I talk about it, how much someone would understand, because I can't really bring my mind back to what it feels like not to feel the car. But yeah, so you'll just have people coach you until it like your feeling and like the theory kind of like clicks together. I'm still learning like so much right now. And especially in the past like 2 years, I was thinking a lot more about like theory than the first few years.
You said that driving that Formula 4 car kind of made you rethink a little bit about what you want to do, and now you're more focused on Super GT, and now you're competing in the Kyoto Cup. So tell me about this cup. What makes it so special and unique, and how is it for you to kind of participate in this?
So Kyoto Cup is a really good series. They've been doing it for 8 or 9 years now. It's an all-female series. And there's another all-female series called F1 Academy right now that's really, really popular in Europe under F1. It's a little bit different because I think the goal of F1 Academy is supposed to be a feeder into higher level series, whereas I believe the goal of Kyoto Cup is to be like the fastest women's only series there is.
Okay.
But this year they changed to a Formula 4 chassis. So it's kind of a lot of new experience for the drivers there. So I don't feel like it's 100% there yet, but I feel like that's the direction that it's going.
You joined last year, I think. You've done one full season with them?
I've done two.
Two
Two,
seasons?
but the cars were different. in the last 2 years. And from this year, it became the Formula 4 chassis.
How do you approach a season? How many races are in there, and how do you kind of prepare for the whole circuit?
So there's 5 rounds, but 10 races. How do I prepare for?
Like, how do you approach a season? Do you need to build a complete strategy throughout the season, depending on, I don't know, your first few results, or is it like a race by race and you take each one at a time?
I think it is kind of a race by race situation because kind of the level of grip changes so much throughout the year that we have to kind of like work on, how can we change the setting of the car to make it like the best for today or whatever. Because Japan goes from like really cold and then the summer is like super hot and
humid.
Yeah. And then there's also rainy seasons as well. But I mean, because this car is so new this year, I guess there are still some things that we work on throughout the year connected together, I guess, techniques.
So this is where I guess it helps to be part of a racing team. So you're with Team Toms. And what is that experience like? I think Toms in Japan is pretty big. They participate in a lot of different series. And what do they kind of do, and what is your role as part of the team?
Yeah, so I was really, really, really lucky to be able to join Team Toms. They're the top team in Japan in Super GT and Super Formula, like all levels of racing. But yeah, I think it's really, really, people don't understand how important it is to have a good team in racing. They just think it's like just the driver or whatever, but really the team is one that like prepares the car and your mentality and everything. Even this year, the opening race, just qualifying was wet qualifying, and we decided to go with used wet tires because of the level of the rain. But that was a decision made by my advisor, who's like a ex Super GT champion, Ito Daisuke from Team Toms, and that like really put me in a good place. So I feel like it is important to have a really good team, people guiding you.
The biggest part we see from teams is probably all the people that are like in the pit on the side of the racetrack. In the case of your team in Kyoto Cup, how many people are kind of working with you for each race?
It's actually not that much. So we have the chief mechanic, and then we'll have like 2 or 3 other mechanics, and then a manager, and then someone more on the sponsor side of
kind
things.
Of media, PR.
Yeah, and then like the advisor / engineer. Yeah.
How often do you race?
Kind of depends, because I do a lot of spot entries as well. So we have the 5 rounds of Kyoto, and then I've done Radical Cup this year, as well as Suzuka Clubman race and Sugo race, some other races as well.
Is it the scene in Japan that is becoming quite international now, or is it still primarily just Japanese drivers?
I think people are starting to realize that Japan's a really good place because it's very cost efficient, but there's such a big cultural and language barrier that I feel like it's still pretty primarily Japanese.
What kind of cultural differences have you noticed, maybe specifically related to motorsports or the approach to kind of dealing with racing in that kind of world?
I think specifically to racing, it would be the battling here is a lot more respectful. If there's any contact, both parties usually go and apologize to each other, not to have like any conflict in the future. It's so different from Europe. So if there's like international series coming to Japan to race, such as GT World Challenge, you can tell like the manners is very, very different.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah.
That much?
Yeah. Very different.
Very different. So more respectful.
Yeah.
Towards each other. Any rule differences?
Yeah, there's some rule differences. It might be too specific, but like sometimes like in the rolling starts in Japan, the cars are kind of like more offset. But then I guess overseas, the rolling start, like the car next to you, you can kind of like pass them before the line.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know.
The small rule differences, some
Yeah.
custom differences, which means that foreign drivers coming here at the beginning, they may have some challenges adapting to.
Yeah, I think it's not just that, but also like the relationships as well with the team. Yeah, I feel like what I noticed in America, sometimes like drivers will leave before the team is kind of like done. They're just like, oh, my job is done here. They'll leave first. But here it feels like you should really stay until your team is done working.
So basically, you have the race day, you finish the race. As a driver in the United States, you might be like, okay, well, I'm done. I'm going home. I'm going to take a shower. But here you might help the mechanic clean up and kind of put things away and, I don't know, brush the garage before kind of closing up shop altogether.
Yeah, a little bit more. Maybe at a higher level, like Super Formula, maybe not so much. But I mean, I wouldn't know. I haven't driven Super Formula, but I think like I see that a lot more in Japan.
Sounds like more team spirit than overseas at times. Less business and more team.
A little bit, yeah. Yeah.
Are there any kind of specific requirements for foreigners that would like to kind of become professional drivers here in Japan? Do they just need to get that license and basically like a team to sponsor them? Or are there some other specific regulations if you want to compete here?
I think you can't get the Japanese race license unless you're based in Japan. So you would have to get an international race license, which means you would have probably already had to do some races overseas. Any other requirements? I don't think so. Yeah.
You mentioned earlier that you thought your path towards a career as a driver in Japan would go a little bit through building a social media audience and kind of have a community of fans that already support you and want to see you race here. But the reality is it's a bit different than what you thought. Can you maybe talk about that a little bit?
Oh, I guess that's a really big difference about Japan's racing scene. I think like the sponsors here are more like relationships that you've had that have been introduced by other people with these sponsors. Whereas in America, I feel like it's a lot more dry and it's just like, oh, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of like relationship-based sponsors, but also I noticed that it's sometimes like, oh, how many times can you like post about us within a year to get like this certain amount of sponsorship? Yeah.
Whereas here in Japan, they would maybe be more like, okay, well, we have less specific requirements about what you do, but we will support you throughout what you do.
But you need to be showing them that you're supporting them back. Like you're really thankful for the sponsorship and that you're doing your best to like promote them as well. So it's a lot less, like the contract is a lot less defined. Yeah, I noticed it's always like, oh, you can post like between 1 and 10 times throughout the year. Whereas in the US, it's like 10 posts for this much, like that. That's what I've noticed, yeah.
But that kind of leads to maybe longer lasting relationships as well. And maybe also more flexibility for you to have a sponsor supporting you into fun endeavors and like other projects that you may have.
Yeah, I think there's good and bad sides. Obviously, if you're not holding up the end of your own promise, like the relationship won't continue. But yeah, it's very different.
We kind of started talking right away about the whole motorsports scene and kind of how you got into this and joined the Kyoto Cup and so on. But how was your experience actually moving to Japan? Because you left the Californian sun for very variable seasons to move to Japan here. Were there any unexpected things that you kind of weren't prepared for? And maybe also in relation to what you're doing professionally now?
I moved here with my friend Arissa, who introduced me to Yaris Cup. So she was really, really helping me with a lot of things in the beginning.
That kind of helped you settle in a little bit without having too much to worry about. And you started racing pretty quickly after coming here as well.
Yeah, I came here basically to race. So
You now, surprisingly or not surprisingly, decided to settle in Aichi Prefecture. A lot of foreigners maybe go to Tokyo, some go to Kansai. Aichi is maybe less picked. What made it so interesting for you to kind of go to that area?
One, I'm not someone who can live in the city. I love the countryside. Also, it's like a really good place to be in between Suzuka and Fuji, which are the circuits that I go to the most. And then now recently, I started a kind of rental service for other people to rent out race cars and also go-karts. And that is based at Koda Circuit.
So all in basically central Japan, which makes it perfect for you to kind of be based there.
Yeah.
You mentioned you drive or race mostly on Suzuka, which is famous because that's also where the Formula One races are. Fuji Speedway, which is popular also known with its renewed hotel and kind of nice atmosphere. Any tracks that you would really like to race on that you haven't really been to yet?
I think there's only one major circuit I haven't raced at yet in Japan, which is Autopolis in Kyushu, in Oita.
Okay.
Yeah.
How different is it for you to race on these different tracks? Do you need to study each of them and practice on each of them? Or is it more, again, like kind of database where you know, okay, if you have this kind of curve, you need to do like this? Well,
I think, yeah, it definitely requires some sort of preparation. And usually the data you don't get unless you have someone else's data to pull from, or your own, which you'd have to drive a lot to get. Yeah, so it does require a lot of preparation.
I want to get back a little bit to the topics of the teams. Tom's is a pretty big team. You're working with them. There's a few racing teams that are popular in Japan, and they kind of all have their drivers in the different series. How competitive is it between all those teams? Is it kind of like strong rivalries, or is it more everyone knows each other and everyone is just kind of on the same circuits racing each other, and it's more a matter of the drivers themselves?
The racing industry is really small, so everyone does know each other, and I'm sure there's like conflict between teams, but I feel like most people try to keep it very respectful and to have good relationships with each other, because you never know like when you're going to leave your team, like when you're going to lose your place from your team. So you got to find other places as well. Yeah. Does
this happen frequently that the driver is quote unquote dropped from a team and just replaced with someone who may have more potential? Or is this kind of something that happens only occasionally if there's like major errors or major issues with a specific member of the team?
I think it's pretty common. Maybe someone can't bring enough sponsors to the team, or maybe one of the makers don't like, because a lot of teams are related to makers. So if the maker doesn't want the driver anymore, then the team will have to drop them. So it is pretty common.
You just said doesn't bring enough sponsors to the team. Is this kind of, technically speaking, also part of your responsibilities to bring sponsors to support the team? Or
yeah, so generally if you're not a factory 100% factory backed driver, the driver is responsible for bringing sponsors to the team, because racing is so expensive. You can't really expect everything to be free. For example, maybe a Formula 4 is 2,500 man.
So 25 million yen. That's about what, 180,000-ish US dollars?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, so it's a really expensive support that requires either sponsor, or maybe like if you have that much money, like you paying yourself. Yeah,
that is quite a bit.
Yeah.
Racing in Japan has also led you to race a little bit internationally, I believe. What was it like for you to then, bring your career here, get familiar with the circuits, and suddenly get the opportunity to race elsewhere in Asia? Did you, was it completely new as an experience? Did you notice a lot of differences between how the racing cultures are in those countries?
I think because Japan is probably the highest level out of the rest of Asia in racing, it was a little bit less competitive elsewhere. The standards are very different, and I feel like Japan is just a lot more stricter. But it's been really nice to be able to see like the different cultures of racing, especially in Indonesia and Korea.
How different is it?
There's a lot of different things. Like, for example, the audiences in Korea were more family-based and there was a lot of kids. Whereas in Japan, a lot of the audience is a lot older. I don't really see that many young people coming to enjoy the races. And then in Japan, it felt like that the team was a lot more serious about the racing. Like they don't want you to focus on anything else. They want you just to focus on the race. And then also it feels like overseas, they value a lot more of the media and marketing.
Interesting. About the audience, I'm actually curious. As a driver, the engines are loud. You focused on your racing. How much do you perceive the audience that is like in the stadium? Because if you, I don't know, like a basketball player and you're in the arena, you see the audience all around all the time. You hear their chants, they cheer you on. But in the car, you're just driving and you probably don't hear anything except maybe a radio contact with your engineer. How does the audience affect you on racing?
I don't see them, to be honest. There's so much to focus on when you're racing. I think people don't realize how much concentration it takes because you're not only thinking about other cars, but you're thinking about the fastest way, to go around every corner compared to the last lap you did. So there's a lot of things that you have to be thinking about, as well as like, oh, where do I need to set up myself to be able to pass the person in front of me at what corner is optimal and stuff like that. So yeah, I don't really have time to be thinking about the people in the stadiums, but I noticed in karting, for some reason, I do kind of like notice.
But it's after, right? After the race is over, you've got a meet and greet with fans, and then you can kind of get interactions.
Yeah. It's super nice.
How is the interaction with them after the race? What kind of things have you noticed? You mentioned the audience is a bit older in Japan. What is it like interacting with the fans? What are they here for?
In Japan? It's kind of hard. I feel like Super GT in Japan is really popular because there's a lot of fans of the JDM cars. I don't know what to say really.
So fan interaction kind of varies a little bit from race to race, and it doesn't have like a typical. It can change all the time depending on who you meet that day.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of fans that come to, for example, I was in Australia last week for World Time Attack Challenge. They're really young and they kind of like watched my story of going into racing and they're kind of inspired by that. I don't really feel so much of that in Japan.
They don't see the story, they just see the driver and they kind of want you to win if they cheer for you, or kind of expect you to kind of perform a certain way if you're part of and representative of team.
Yeah. I see a lot of fans coming from the team that I am in.
Interesting. So
more than myself as an individual.
So the team brand is strong in Japan, but the individual brand is stronger overseas.
Yeah,
so
I think
kind of want to cheer for you. That's interesting.
Yeah.
How long are the races? Because you mentioned it takes a lot of concentration. How long are you kind of sitting in that car and going around?
Because I'm doing sprint racing, it's only 12 laps, so 26-ish minutes. Yeah.
Formula One usually is like over an hour, right?
Yeah, it's long.
It's kind of hard to imagine how much it takes to stay focused.
I can't imagine. Also physical ability as well. I just can't imagine it.
Outside of the track, what kind of interesting experiences has this kind of racing career led to here in Japan? Have you been able to meet with automakers? I know Team Tom's, you're working and driving with Toyota. Have you been able to kind of see a little bit of the industry side of race cars here in Japan?
Yeah, it's been really cool, especially because I was kind of working kind of race adjacent industry in America. I got to meet a lot of cool people and
You're not sure if you're allowed to talk about some of the things you saw.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what.
I can imagine there's a lot of maybe projects that are not yet revealed to the public. Maybe you get to see as a driver. So where's your career taking you now? You're kind of in your third year of the Kyoto Cup with the all-new car, Formula 4, which you mentioned was quite a bit a different challenge. When is this starting, or has it started already?
It's already started. So we're halfway through the season. There's been a lot of learning this year, especially because it's such a new car to the series. There's a lot of problems that we're working out, like mechanically, which has been a little bit tough this season. So yeah, kind of looking at the season as more of a learning experience and to think about what I really want to do for the future, especially because I am like a lot older now. I'm 28 this year. So it's kind of really old in the racing world. So I kind of got to think about moving to GT cars now because the length of your career is a lot longer in GT cars rather than Formula. So I've been kind of looking at series like GT World Challenge and Japan Cup to somehow lead me to Super GT one day.
Is there an age limit for being a professional racer, or is it kind of more basically like being an athlete and they will just say you're too old and maybe not fit enough mentally for this?
It's kind of more like that. Yeah, there's more of like a stigma. And I think the older you are, the less opportunities people will give you. Yeah.
You mentioned your age and being a bit older than other racers and kind of how unique your story is, because you don't come from this racing at a very young age kind of background. Have you felt that sharing the story here in Japan has maybe led to some change, led to maybe younger fans also be like, hey, well, if Hana's doing this, maybe I can do that too, and I want to become a race driver, or a change in the industry?
Actually, yeah. I never really thought that my story would reach people that way, but I do have a lot of people coming up to me like saying, oh, you inspired me to do this or whatever. Because kind of one of the series that started growing my channel was talking about how it's like never too late to start doing what you want to do, because I started racing so late. And so I've had people that say like, oh, I moved to Japan to pursue racing, or really? Because I started the rental service with the Vita to try to help other people get into racing in Japan. I've also had people think about like moving over to Japan. And then we have so many people from overseas driving with us now, from America, New Zealand, Australia, Malaysia, Singapore. So it's been kind of cool to be able to maybe make a little bit of a difference.
Yeah,
hopefully.
inspire a new generation of racers
Yeah.
to kind of pursue their dreams and not think that it's too late. But for your personal career and your dream, transitioning to GT cars, what will it take? What do you need to make that jump into GT racing?
I think I need sponsors.
If anyone is listening to this and wants to kind of support your career development, reach out to Hana.
Yeah, GT is a little bit strange because it's a lot more expensive than Formula. It takes maybe over $1 million to run a car or more.
For the season? Or?
Yeah, for the season. So drivers are expected to bring like a lot more money, even though you split the cars with two people. So if you can be really, really, really fast and prove yourself, then there's more likely to be a second driver that will maybe cover your spot for the series. Yeah.
Is it, are there like tryouts where you just, I don't know, you go, or is it again, kind of like you mentioned with the sponsors earlier, you have to know someone who introduces you to a potential team, to a potential sponsor, who will then see maybe your experience in racing. Oh, this person has potential. Maybe let's have them race this car for one day and see what they can do.
There's not really tryouts much because it takes a lot of money to even run the car for one day. So it's more like you have to have a good network and have good past results to try to attract people to do a program. So you got to kind of like, maybe if you're working with an older gentleman that's, because we call them gentleman drivers, that is racing not as a professional, but more for fun. But they want to win the series, they would probably choose someone who's really fast that can help them win the series, and they would pay for their seat to drive as like a package.
So the gentleman driver would pay for a fast driver to drive the car, and he would sit in a passenger seat?
No. So a lot of GT racing is more than one driver, and the races are a lot longer usually.
Also, like one driver will do a few laps, and then he will be replaced in a pit stop by another driver who will take the car.
Yeah, like whatever on
kind
the
of
strategy.
Like Le Mans, is it Le Mans?
Yeah.
And so they would kind of put you as be one of the drivers for this too.
Yeah, because if you have a faster partner, then you're more likely to win. Yes.
Interesting. Yeah. So you have to find a gentleman driver that is maybe interested in.
Which is kind of, I've always kind of thought about would be a very big, a difficult part of my career, especially because I'm a woman, and it's usually gentle men drivers and not gentle women drivers. So I feel like that dynamic can always be a little bit difficult. Even as a professional. So I always thought maybe that's going to be a kind of a hard part.
As a typical kind of sport that has this image of being mostly for men, has the Kyoto Cup as an all-female racing series and the Formula One Academy led to some change? Have you seen new opportunities come up and people being more open to maybe having mixed teams for these kind of Super GT?
Yeah, I think I started seeing more like feminine sponsors, so feminine brands wanting to come into the space, which really helps. And then also just like a lot more visibility on us, because there's a lot of TV, like Televi Tokyo is covering Kyoto.
Oh, cool.
We've had like so many cameras on us when we're in the pits and stuff. So I think visibility also helps with bringing in sponsors as well. So it helps for that side of things. Yeah.
Was this something that was maybe difficult for you to deal with? That, you race cars for fun and suddenly you've got a professional team, you've got, you're part of a popular cup and series, and you have all these cameras, all this media attention, maybe expecting interviews or just filming you in a pit when you just want to be focused on something.
Yeah, but it's something that you have to get used to because it's part of the job. I think especially me, it's kind of hard to believe, but I actually really don't like being in front of the camera, even though I'm a content creator.
And here you are with us in front of 3 cameras. Yeah.
But yeah, it is really just like part of the job, and to be able to do what you want to do, which is drive.
How's the relationship with the media? Do you kind of still get your space, or in some countries maybe the media might be very invasive and corner you and try to get things out of you? Or is it more control with, okay, you do your race and then maybe you have cameras on the side, and then after that you give an interview and it's done?
I think that's like a big issue that we're trying to overcome in the Kyoto Cup, because the media has access to the pits, because I believe there may be like some documentary or something that would be going on. So we're trying to figure out how we can kind of overcome that, because there should be a safe space for the drivers. But usually media will respect, for example, if I'm going over data with my advisor, I don't really want them in the room.
It's also your private data, right?
Yeah.
You don't want your competitors to know either what you're kind of looking
Normally at the higher level, there's like media mix kind of rooms where they have like a lot of times where they're allowed to ask questions. But yeah, I'm sure it's very difficult. And that's probably why I remember seeing something like Max Verstappen didn't want to be on like the Drive to Survive documentary for one season or something like that. Yeah, I'm sure it's sometimes you can get like fed up with it.
Yeah, I think it's a lot. And also now the Formula One movie, right, with Brad Pitt, I guess also brought a lot of attention. I was seeing I guess this is made by Formula One, the association, but they're now filming a lot more the drivers and making a lot more social media content than they used to a few years ago, which leads to a lot of interesting questions about the privacy of the drivers, the privacy of the data and such.
I think most driver feelings is I just want to drive. But everybody knows that if there was no media, no fans, no sponsors, that we wouldn't be able to make, our dream happen. So I think everyone is participating in the media.
And that media may lead to some positive change, to get back to the topic of like kind of female racing, to have more mixed racing, to have more access towards other series than now. Have you seen any change in this in the few years that you've kind of already been part of the scene here in Japan?
Yeah, I've heard before I joined Kyojo that it wasn't really that great of an image so much, but now it's seen more of as a sport, especially because we have a pretty big shoking reward. So everybody is very, very competitive. And now there's only 20 spots for the Formula Series. So you have to be somewhat capable in order to join the series. So yeah, it seems like we're taken more seriously and it's more seen as a sport than,
just a group of
for
girls
fun,
driving for fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
What would it? So you mentioned you need to go back to going to into GT. You need to kind of maybe find some either sponsors or someone that wants to take you on their kind of existing team. Are there any regulations that would technically not allow you to compete, or is this just a matter of basically financial possibilities and skill level to participate?
Yeah, I have an international C license now, so there's no other regulation. Yeah, just sponsors, but obviously I don't want to go into a level of racing like Super GT without having experience in GT cars. So, and use like that sponsor money to do that and not perform well. So that's why I think I want to take some time to do like GT World Challenge or Japan Cup in order to get more experiences in first GT4s and then GT3s, and then head into Super GT when I feel like I'm at a level in a GT car where I can compete.
It's hard for me to imagine like how different all these cars are. Like as a driver, it's like how much more complex is a Super GT compared to GT3 or GT4. But I guess for you, it's like a lot of small details that you experience when you're sitting in there and driving.
Yeah, there's a lot of Super GT drivers that just go straight from Formula 4. So I think it's more about understanding like driving theory than just like really getting used to the car. And I think especially now that we have sims and they're quite realistic, people are able to kind of learn through that.
So these sims, some of them people can play at home as well, I guess, or play like use at home where you have like the proper seat and all the equipment as it would be the real car.
Yeah.
If someone wants to start it as a hobby, is this a realistic entry point to kind of get a feel for what it's like to drive a race car?
Yeah. I think it's not so much get a feel, but more understand how a car moves based on the input that you give it, and then how different cars move based on the inputs you give it. So yeah, I think it's quite realistic. I think if you want to get a cheaper steering wheel and pedal, it's maybe like $300-ish. Yeah.
So that's also the good place where you can crash your car without too many consequences.
Oh yeah.
Before kind of taking the real one out of the curve and into the ditch. But
yeah.
So you're halfway through your Kyoto season, the third one. Lots of plans for future races. You're just at the beginning of your career in a way. Do you feel like we covered your story so far quite well? Is there something that was important for you that you wanted to maybe share with people that you would have liked to bring up today?
Yeah, actually. So one of the biggest things I'm working on right now is a brand called Circuit Orange, which I actually started drawing for like 4 or 5 years ago. I was making comics about like getting into cars and motorsports. And I kind of wanted to make it something that could be really accessible to people who can't really find a way in. It's been a while since then, and now I have an artist for the brand. So we've been posting comics on Instagram under the brand Circuit Orange, but that's what this rental race team has also become. Since last year, I built a go-kart for this kid that couldn't like afford to get in. And then I realized, this like kind of matches with my brand story. So I made that into Circuit Orange. And then I started doing the single-seater Vita rentals. And there was a lot of interest. And then now we have a Australian driver who just turned 17. And she's racing under Circuit Orange now in Japan. So we're going to figure out her career for the next year. And her goal is F1 Academy. So,
wow.
Yeah.
That's super exciting. You could be the kind of, it's kind of very fitting for your story that you kind of joined this and now you're kind of leading the next generation into straight to the top of.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know, like, I to be realistic, I know that I started too late to like really, really shoot for the tippiest top of the top. But yeah, I want to be able to maybe be some sort of factor that can help other people dream about what I couldn't.
Yeah, change the industry.
Yeah.
Open it up to more exciting racers and a more exciting competition. Hana, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
I think we covered a lot of topics. I hope we kind of got a little bit into everything. I'm sure there will be things that will sync off after the cameras turn off.
Yeah, probably.
But thank you again very much. We'll make sure to put all the links in the description so people can reach out to you and maybe also find your rental services if they want to try themselves at the racing car in Aichi Prefecture. Thank you again. Thank you everyone for listening and watching. This was Unpacking Japan, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. Please hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on future conversations. And we'd love to hear from you. Share your thoughts in the comment section down below. And if you enjoyed this episode, here are a couple more that we think you'll enjoy. Thanks again for your support, and we'll see you next time.